In 1683, a fellow named Algernon Sidney was executed in England for his role in a plot against King Charles II. Sidney had been implicated in an attempt to assassinate Charles and his brother James, but was well known for his revolutionary works such as Court Maxims and Discourses Concerning Government, in which he attacked monarchy, particularly absolute monarchy, as a great evil, and promoted the continuation of the English Republic. Sidney's work is now considered among the greatest democratic texts, and he is considered as one of the key developers of modern democratic rights in the West. Indeed, his language about self-evident truths and all men are created equal was borrowed, ripped off, by Thomas Jefferson when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Sidney's father was Robert Sidney, 2nd Earl of Leicester. Robert's grandmother had been the sister of another Earl of Leicester, Robert Dudley, well known as the favourite of Queen Elizabeth I. The first Earl, also Robert, was the brother of Sir Philip Sidney, another very prominent Elizabethan. Algernon died childless, but his brother, the 3rd Earl, went on to sire a family lasting until the present day. The 4th Earl's son, Algernon's great-nephew Thomas, had a granddaughter who married Sir Bysshe Shelley. Sir Byshe's grandson from another marriage was Percy Bysshe Shelley, the famed romantic poet. Percy's wife Mary Shelley wrote the great horror novel Frankenstein in 1818. Mary's mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, wrote perhaps the greatest work of feminist literature ever, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Returning to Sir Bysshe, his first marriage produced a line of Sidneys that eventually became peers once again, when Sir Philip Sidney became the first Baron Delisle and Dudley. There's Dudley again. Several generations of Sidneys later came the 6th Baron William Sidney, who in 1961 was appointed Governor-General of Australia. Delisle was the last Briton to hold the post, another blow struck for the anti-monarchists. From this point on, the Australian Viceroy would be an Australian. Delisle himself was descended, albeit illegitimately, from King William IV, whose daughter by Dorothea Bland, his mistress, married the 1st Baron Delisle, the 6th Baron's great-grandfather. But we're not done yet with this story. Another line of the family, descended from the 2nd Earl, spawned Thomas Townsend, who in 1783 was created Viscount Sidney. Sidney took his peerage name from his antecedent, Algernon Sidney. In 1788, when the First Fleet brought a load of convicts to Port Jackson and founded a penal colony, it was named Sidney after Lord Sidney, Home Secretary at the time. It was Sidney's orders that not only created the colony, but gave Governor Phillip the right to emancipate convicts and turn them into free settlers, thus establishing some of the fundamental rights of early Australian colonies. Algernon would have been very proud. But just when you think it's over, there's even more. Sidney's family, the Townsends, were ironically a strongly pro-royalist family during the English Civil War. Perhaps Algernon wouldn't have liked that quite so much. Lord Sidney's grandfather had married the sister of Sir Robert Walpole, considered Britain's first modern Prime Minister, and one of the founders of the principles of modern Westminster government. The 2nd Earl's daughter had married Sir John Pelham, whose son Thomas had 2 sons who became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Henry Pelham and the Duke of Newcastle. Newcastle's son, Henry Pelham Clinton, 2nd Duke of Newcastle, had a daughter, Arabella, who married Charles Spencer, later the Earl of Sunderland. Arabella died 2 years later, and Charles remarried to Anne Churchill, daughter of the Duke of Marlborough. For those slow, you guessed it. These are the same 2 families, the Spencers and the Churchills, that eventually produced Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill, and had in the past produced John Churchill, 1st Duke of Marlborough, who had fought for the Royalists during the Civil War, and then finally switched side to William III in the Glorious Revolution, which had been predicted by Algernon Sidney. And of course, the 1st Duke's great-grandson John Spencer was created Earl Spencer in 1734. His descendant, Edward, was the father of Diana Spencer, Princess of Wales. So this one family contained 2 courtiers of Elizabeth I, a man executed for trying to overthrow Elizabeth's descendant, Charles II, a man who fought for Charles's brother James II, and the man who overthrew him, William III, a famous romantic poet, a woman who wrote one of the greatest works of feminism in history, a woman who wrote one of the greatest horror novels in history, a Governor-General of Australia, William IV, King of Great Britain, 3 British Prime Ministers, including Winston Churchill, the man for whom Australia's largest city is named and whose influence created many of her early colonial rights, and the Princess of Wales. If you can get through all that and decipher it, what a ride, what a family. It just goes to show you how deeply incestuous history is, partly because the British aristocracy are also quite incestuous. I'm Citizen Cam, and this has been your very quick history lesson for today.